So the government has been shut down for a little over 6 days now at the time of this recording. It's going to go on much longer, and a lot of people are asking questions. Basically, when is this going to be over, as well as is there any hidden meaning behind all of this? Because as we all know, everything that's happening is more than meets the eye. There's a level of your awakeness, your perception of reality, and you will believe, in some sense, what you want to believe if it's given to you in a certain way. And so for a lot of people, the world is shown as Democrat versus Republican. It's being shown as, oh, the Congress, the Senate, they're not agreeing. You're seeing stuff happening sort of out in the open as optics, and behind the scenes, there's much more going on. So we're going to talk about some of those things, especially as it relates to the military and some of the potential operations that is going on, and also people that are wondering about, is this sort of this Red October? Is this this shutdown, as well as some of the other stuff going on behind the scenes? So let's talk about it. So there was a lot of noise leading up to this, but right now from the public perspective, what they're seeing is a lot of furloughs. They're seeing people being fired. They're saying a lot of things with regards to the budget. Russell Voigt, head of the Office of Management and Budget, told Republicans that there's going to be a layoff happening, and there's a lot of narratives going on. And one of the big narratives is that Trump is saying this is a unprecedented opportunity, and also that the Democrats have shut the government down. So in between his trip to speaking for the 250th anniversary of the Navy, he was asked a question about the update to this, and this is what he said.
Mr. President, will the administration begin firing federal employees during this government?
That's taking place right now, and it's all because of the Democrats. The Democrats are causing the loss of a lot of jobs with their, it's a shutdown. It's their shutdown, not our shutdown, it's their shutdown.
What agencies?
And I hope everybody likes what's the Presidential Walk of Fame. You know that? Have you seen it's beautiful, isn't it? Presidential Walk of Fame. Thank you very much. Again, congratulations to the Navy. They did a great job today. Thank you very much.
And though he mentioned that it's the Democrats' shutdown, and we'll talk about that here in a second, but watch how he talks about that this is a presidential walk of fame, and he's giving people attention to that. And I've talked about this before, but the Biden part of the presidential walk of fame is showing that it's the auto pen. And I've had a previous video about this, but this is very significant in the sense that it's very disrespectful from Biden's point of view that you would have everybody else up there, but Biden is something else. It's this auto pen, like this picture of this auto pen that is front and center for everyone to see as they're walking by. And I've said this before, but it's something with obviously Biden and with this whole, pseudo presidency and all of that. And I won't go too much into it in depth, but it's stating a lot in terms of what his position was, his quote unquote presidency, right? But more than that, he updated. They said that people walking by, they updated with gold ornamentals, designs across, and above some of these framing here. And so he's giving attention, again, to the presidency and the past and what has happened, and possibly having people kind of digest that as this progresses with regards to what the real versus the fake is of what this perception of reality is of the office of the presidency. And then that reminds me of Post 520, where they talk about the shutdown. And one of the things that it says was the Dems will threaten shutdown, quote unquote shutdown, but what they're really doing is shutting down our military at a time we need it most. Get smart. In MAGA, it says. So you got to think about what the Dems are really trying to do and trying to hurt sort of the Republican or the other side, the good guy, the white hat side. And in the public perspective, the fight that's going down is with regards to the funding and the illegal. So watch what Mike Johnson says about what is actually going on with the games that they're playing. And what's crazy about this is that if you put these side by side, and I'm looking at a post from Western Lensman, but CNN and then MSNBC, they cut Mike Johnson off before he starts to expand on his thoughts. So watch and listen to what he's saying.
Joe Biden used executive orders, and he expanded benefits, health care to illegal aliens in his 4-year term. That was an outrageous violation of the existing federal law.
Okay, I want to pull out just to make sure we don't offer misleading information when it comes to what the facts are and what the laws are.
Now, why are we saying that they want to return and restore taxpayer-funded benefits to illegal aliens? Because that's exactly what they did. When they rejected the clean CR that we sent over, The Senate Democrats.
All right, we're listening
Chuck Schumer
here
filed a
to
counter-proposal.
Speaker Johnson. He's trying to frame the shutdown as a Democratic shutdown. He also falsely claimed that Democrats want to give extend health care to illegal immigrants. That is not true.
And what's crazy here is that it's the same stuff from the last couple of terms, right? Mike Johnson and these guys are trying to talk the truth, but the mainstream media, they're constantly just shutting it down, saying, oh, no, that's not true. It's false misinformation. But again, he's hinting at and showcasing what some of these this money is being used for. And by CR, he means continuing resolution, which is the name of that bill. But those are some serious allegations, right? And funding the illegals. And then if you want to go to the elections and all of that stuff, it's a bigger conversation. But he's saying some deep, big things, especially with the Medicare stuff or the health stuff and the funding of all of this illegals. And this ties to some of the Portland and the Antifa stuff, which, we'll probably get there at some other point. But it's just interesting, this kind of back and forth and quote unquote fact checks that they're trying to do. And Clinical Publicist says this: Democrats go crazy when you point out that they are funding healthcare for illegal aliens with federal tax dollars. They claim that it is a lie. The reason they claim it is a lie is because they wash the federal dollars through blue state programs. And then the state dollars are what is dispersed to the illegal aliens. Then that lets them pretend it's a lie. You know who else launders money like this? The mafia and the drug cartels. The methods the Democrats are using are so remarkably similar to how organized crime launders money. See below. And here it talks about 3 stages of money laundering: placement, introducing illicit funds into the legitimate financial system; layering, concealing the source of money through complex transactions and bookkeeping; and then integration, releasing the cleaned money back into the legitimate economy. And of course, there's so many Q drops talking about funding. Looking at 4750, U.S. taxpayers funding the destruction of America. There's so much with regards to how money is being laundered and how it goes to the wrong organizations, and they're using it and they're concealing it for their own gain. And this is what Joe Lange says: the quote unquote unprecedented opportunity, and that's referring to what Trump has said, of a lifetime, after Trump won all Supreme Court cases which allow him to cut funding of government agencies. Trump is quote targeting blue states. Do you want to know why? Blue states, even with all the election fraud, are only in power because their state governments have been subsidized with billions in federal taxpayer dollars for decades. Trump's strategy is called money flow disruption. Trump is cutting off blue state money for frauds like the railway to nowhere in California and climate change scams. He's cutting off federal taxpayer money for illegals and for things like what was just announced in Chicago. And then reading here, quote, as the government shutdown enters its 3rd day, White House officials have reminded Americans all this week that Democrats voted for the full-blown government shutdown, which has inadvertently given President Trump the greatest gift ever: the ability to revive Doge-style efforts to cut waste and fraud. On X, Office of Management and Budget OMB Director Russ Vought announced 3 cuts this week. First, $18 billion in New York City infrastructure projects, he said, were infused with, quote, unconstitutional DEI principles, end quote. Then $8 billion in, quote, green new scam, end quote, spending, and now $2.1 billion in Chicago infrastructure projects over, quote, race-based contracting, end quote. And there's a drop about this, right? QJAB 119. What is money flow disruption? List the billionaires. What family history goes back pre-World War I and II? Why is this relevant? Why did the Bush family recently break silence and attack POTUS? Coincidence? Pre-SA arrests or Saudi Arabia arrests, I believe. Who audits the billions paid for war? Who audits the billions paid for environment policy? Where do the funds go? Offshore? Who? Which entity and or org? And then moving down, what is the underlying theme? Money. Who controls the Fed? And so the result of all this money flow disruption in blue states is going to be a financial squeeze on blue state budgets that will then force Democrat state city officials to cut spend massively. And this is all by design. And what's crazy is that Dan Scavino posted about this on October 2nd. And I'm subtracting 11 hours here because I'm Korea time, but 3:16 p.m. October 2nd. And this post is 30 seconds long. And if you go to post 316, the first comment here is martial law starting the 11th. And then if you scroll down, He says, what has been said about the U.S. military? The speech yesterday verified and unlocked so much. Expand your thinking. Read crumbs. Re-listen to yesterday's speech. Connect the markers. News unlocks the map. Expand your thinking. The Great Awakening. And then below it says, we love our U.S. military on behalf of an entire nation. Thank you for your sacrifice and service. And Dean Erickson here talks about how 30 seconds done in 30. So is everything going to be done in 30? I don't know, 30 days or whatever it is. And then expanding on that post, President Trump spoke, remember, at Quantico, he said a lot. What has been said about the U.S. military? If you remember, post 26 here says, think about it logically. The only way is the military, fully controlled, save and spread. Once 11.3 verifies his first marker, biggest advance drop on poll. And in that speech, remember, President Trump told the military leaders, we are at war from within. And when he's thanking the U.S. military, and especially with that 250th anniversary naval speech, it sounds like it's go time. It sounds like there's something going on with the military behind closed doors, and they're doing things right now, even as we speak. And whether it is part of this 10-day thing or this operation, and the money is supposed to stop, and they're trying to dampen the military because that's what the shutdown was supposed to be for. But all in all, it's failing, and there's so much more than what is being shown at face value. Who knows? But the point here is that the military, as Trump has said, they will never again communicate what they're going to do, because if this is really a war and they are fighting and doing certain things, they're not just going to come out and say, hey, this is what we're doing. We're going to publish everything. They're going to go quiet. They're going to be clean and swift, and they're going to attack quick. The speeches that he's mentioned, especially with Pete Hegseth, the other speech that he mentioned also to the admirals and generals, they are in some war posture, and they're getting ready to do some big moves. And I believe this is what's happening right now. If it's not, then it's going to come very soon. And all of these drops and this coincidental matching to these Q posts, and as well as just other rhetoric and people talking up the military and everything else that is being theorized, I'm thinking that we are very close to the end, and it's going to be great. And I just want to encourage many of you guys that are thinking, praying through all of this, that God has all of this in his hands. And so part of it also is that it's a movie, meaning that the victory, the White Hats have already won, but we're seeing much more. So I want to know your guys' thoughts on the shutdown. There's a lot, as I've said before, everything is shown at face value, and there's layered meanings behind it. There's real things going on behind the scenes. The media, in some sense, is even in on it in the sense of the communication, the top down, as well as cornering them to make them think and to say certain things in a certain way, because it's all game theory in some sense. So I just want to give you guys this whole thing. Let me know your thoughts below. And also, if you guys want to help me out, you guys know I'm doing a fundraiser, givesendgo.com/chrisyoonyt. All the information is down in the link below. Love you guys. Talk to you guys very soon.